Hello and welcome, my friends. This is your host, Mario Lanzarotti. Welcome to the Zenpreneur podcast. Today, another exciting guest joining us, Mr. Chuck Hogan, managing partner at Your Best Life, an organization helping people to elevate finance, family, fitness, and faith. A lot of F's, and we're going to have some fun with that, to maximize their best life through mentor strategizing, community, and exclusive once-in-a-lifetime experiences. His unique background of sales, business, and relationship building gives him a rare perspective that enables him to successfully guide entrepreneurs, CEOs, and top executives to new heights. Chuck, I'm excited. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mario. It's wonderful to be with you today.
Chuck, I love your company, Live Your Best Life. I checked it out on the website. I love the whole experiences that you create. I love the sense of community. I love the four F's that it is built upon. I'm curious to learn a little bit more about your story. People usually don't just wake up living their best life. There's often a lot of trial and error, a lot of pain that they go through. So I'm curious to know, how did you get to living your best life?
It's a great question. I think and I believe oftentimes in life, Mario, people are put on a path, and our responsibility is to live our purpose. Um, for a long time, I believe that my purpose was to live in contribution to others, and I still believe that. There's a difference, though, in the meaning we give to what contribution is. So, as an example, I spent 22 years as a volunteer trainer in a very well-known environment from a very tall man with big teeth named Mr. Tony Robbins. And I love Tony. He's an amazing person. His content is remarkable. And I started to realize some things for myself, though, and that was I was literally in the last couple years, coming into 2019 and into 2020, I was dedicating 13 events to that organization as a volunteer. Now,
Wow.
what does that mean? I'm not on payroll. I get a very small stipend. They pay for air travel, things like that, which is all great. The challenge with it, though, is I didn't realize in my contribution to all these people that I was taking away from my family.
Mhm.
And because if you think about this, you're going 20 to 22 hours a day. I'm not embellishing. That was my schedule, and I'd be there for a week. Well, that's the equivalent of 2 full weeks of work. And if you're doing 13 events a year, you're doing more than once a month. So it means
Mhm.
50% of my time was being spent in contribution and dedication to others. And for little to no remuneration, except I was filling up spiritually, I was filling up karmically. And this is important because there's different types of currency. And I remind people that we need to be very clear as to what our outcomes in life is. And I'm going to make it very simple for everyone. The quality of your life is in direct proportion to how you feel. If you're stressed and overwhelmed, then your life is stressed and overwhelmed. If you're unhappy and feeling pressured all the time, whether that stress is internal or external, that is going to have a resounding resonance effect on the rest of your life and the quality of it. And I started asking myself this question. I was like, oh gosh, Chuck, why am I doing all this? Plus working, in 3 to 6 different companies at the time on and off. And I was like, okay, this is a lot going on. And I started to realize something, and that was my family was getting what was left of me and not the best of me.
Ooh.
And all they really want is me. They didn't want more toys, more gifts. They didn't want more trips. In fact, I'll take that back. They wanted trips, but they wanted trips with daddy. They wanted trips, my
Mm.
wife wanted trips with her husband. And so I'm the blessed father of 3 amazing young adults now. Youngest being 17. She just turned 17. We have a 20 and a 23-year-old, a college graduate. And I've been so blessed to be with my soulmate, my amazing wife, Julie, for 36 years. We'd celebrated in January. And I can say this with a lot of pride that I'm a blessed man. But boy, I was a stupid man for a long time. I was silly. I was not paying attention. And I got a little distracted, Mario, to be quite frank. I was chasing that almighty dollar, that success. As entrepreneurs, we're like going, come on, man, we can just bring it and do it. And if we can leverage ourselves and increase and level up and compound our experiences and our exposure. And I was like, I was doing all these things and I was somewhat happy. Because people go, well, dude, you opened for Tony Robbins. I used to be the dancer on stage that opened for Tony to elevate a room of 10 to 15,000 people. I was the guy that was leading that group of state inducers on stage in front of a stadium. And you're like going, wow, that must feed your ego. And I go, no, I was there in service. I was connecting energy. It wasn't about ego. It was more about I'm living my purpose. So I came up with this saying, and this is what your best life is the derivative of. I said, my family and I deserve the best of me and not what's left of me. Because if your
Mm.
cup is not filling up and you're at halfway, yet you're trying to fill everyone else's cup, you're pouring everything out of your cup and there's nothing left. And we've heard this, this Sue saying this analogy over and over and over again. And I said, what can help fill my cup up constantly? I said, community. I need better people in my life because you are the company you keep. You are the top 5 people you spend the most time with is who you become.
No.
And I was like, okay. So when COVID hit, everything was shut down. There were no live events. We were all, this is our communication level. We're all on video screens and communicating, and Zoom and Restream and Riverside and all these different platforms started blowing up. And it was like, okay, I still want to travel. And they go, you're nuts. Where are you going to go? Everything's shut down. I go, no, there's countries that are open. Costa Rica's open. Mexico's open. All these places go, okay, wait, are you bananas? We're like, uh-uh. So very dear friends of mine, we got together and we said, in a perfect world that's imperfect, barring no expense, what would you do? And I said, really want to help people still. But it's not enough. I know people who, Mario, they're billionaires and they're miserable. They have all the money and the resources, but they have no life. They have no joy, no happiness. And someone said, why is that? And I said, well, it's actually really simple. There's this behavioral concept, and maybe you and your community have heard about this. It's called the reticular activating system, the RAS. And what's interesting about the reticular activating system is that it only points where you aim it. So where focus goes, energy flows. And we have a lot of folks that they were myopically focused on business. It was all business, their value, their money, the rate of return, the ROI. Is like, okay, get it. Yet that wasn't bringing them happiness. And that's this in their mind's eye. There's a science to success, there's an art to fulfillment, and they were only honoring the science of success. They're really good at that. So their entire identity was wrapped up in that. So we
Mm.
said, okay, how do you change the narrative? Said this is really simple. We're going to go ahead and create a community where it's not just for the member, but it's for the member, the spouse, and if you're single and ready to mingle, you can invite a friend. And we're going to have these amazing events 4 times a year. And we're going to go to exotic locations. Why? They go, because if your RAS is always only pointing towards work and being dedicated towards action and growth, and it's never about celebrating. I'm like, oh, these trips are going to be about celebration. We're going to go and have 5-star experiences, but not at 5-star prices. We're actually going to bring in and curate the best speakers in the world to go ahead and share their knowledge, their light, their happiness, their integrity, their value systems. And you know what? And in fact, we're going to make sure that anyone who's a member of YBL, that we actually go through an interview process. And that interview process is to identify their values. Because why would we set someone up for success just because they can afford to be consulted within our community? That doesn't make enough sense. We want to know that you're going to be happy, that we can actually help elevate you, that we can cultivate and grow together. Because I can show you the weights. I can take you to the gym of life and say, if you lift this weight and do it this way, you're going to get these results. The challenge is I can't lift the weight for you.
Mm.
So we needed to find different ways to help motivate people as well. I got to tell you, this community, they're crazy. These people are absolutely psychotic when it comes to enjoyment and fun and family and celebrating life. And we were
Mm.
just in the Dominican Republic, and we had 2 amazing speakers, Natalie Jill and Clark Bartram. And this guy at 60 years old looks like most 30-year-olds want to look. And you're like going, holy smokes, how does he do it? He's all natural. But this guy's energy is off the chain. If you think I have a lot of energy at 5:30 in the morning, you ought to see this cat. He is like bananas. But I don't know of anyone who isn't insanely happy that isn't a little bit bananas. Like there's this level of energy and the zest for life, and you're going, oh my gosh, I want what they're having. I want to live that way. So we're like, okay, so this whole thing, your best life, and you go, but is it just enough to help people grow their businesses so they can afford the membership, they can afford the strategizing? Because we don't have coaches, by the way. We have mentor strategists. If people go, oh, you're one of those guys, Chuck, semantics. And I go, no, 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 no. I know a lot of coaches and they're beautiful people. Don't get me wrong. But going to a course for a week or a month does not give you the life skills to say that you've run a business or that you've raised a successful family or that you're a person of faith, that you are in peak physical fitness. And I go there with you, Mario, for one simple reason, and that is I'm not going to ask someone to guide me on a treacherous trail if they've never walked it before, if they haven't walked it 100 times, 1,000 times, if they haven't
Right.
walked it in the dark, the rain, the light, the sun. Why? Because these experiences create the ability to be able to pivot and to give distinctions and to keep things very salient and clear. Again, they're not doing it for you, but I'm looking for best practices. And so mentor strategists are people that live these tenets. They live these experiences.
Yeah.
They don't just play with it, they actually embody it. And that's what your best life's been all about. We're literally a business company that decided that the currency wasn't just money and rate of return in your business, where you could 3x, 10x your business. We said, what if it was also the currency and you could up level and have a different life in your family and in your faith and in your fitness while
Mm.
increasing your finances? And I go, they're not mutually exclusive. And when you do it in concert together, oh, life is so rewarding. Life is so
Mhm.
fulfilling.
Mhm.
And that's literally how YBL got started. It was during COVID. People are like, you're nuts. It's never going to work. We're in our third year. It's growing. We are expanding. And it's been a blessing. It's been a blessing. And we have membership from all over the world. And that's been really, really, really cool to see.
Mm. I love it. I love it. Beautiful. There's a couple things that I want to dive into. Thank you for sharing that story and tracking back to what you said. You said that you used to be really stupid, and
Hmm.
it sounded like you had sort of an epiphany, a waking up moment. And I'm curious because, as you and I both know, there's a lot of entrepreneurs, business owners, CEOs that are in that exact place. On the
Yes,
front, they have it all. They got the money, they got the cars, they got the trophy wives, they're living in the most exclusive locations, but on the inside, they're like zombies. They're like dead. And so I'm wondering, what was the moment for you, or was there a moment where you had like an epiphany, where you really understood the way that I'm living is no longer sustainable? I got to make a change.
100%. In 2009, I had a very interesting experience. And I don't look at it as just being the pivot point. I look at it as being an awakening. And so I was having an exam, regular annual exam with my physician, and we found a lump in my genitalia that ended up being very, very small, but cancerous.
Mm.
And so I was diagnosed with testicular cancer in 2009. Now, my children were extremely young at this point, and my youngest daughter was 2, my middle daughter was then 5, and my son was 10. And it's like, okay, this is a lot going on all at one time. And yet, here I am. I need to work. So I just took it like a champ, had the surgery, did not chemo, but radiation therapy. And because it's a preventative. Then I go, wow, this was kind of weird because I was in my 30s at the time. And I was like, boy, Lance Armstrong and me try to be achievers here. It's like going, if you have to look at folks, because I got it way later than most people get it. And I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, I was just putting it off, till I was ready. And so one of the things that happened was I started going, why did I get this? I'm in good shape. I work out. I eat healthy. I'm active. I'm feeling full. I serve other people. I serve my family. And then it dawned on me and I said, stress. The silent killer for most people on this planet is stress. And chronic stress, and this is something that's very systemic to type A personalities, entrepreneurs, people that are successful in business, that have the trophy wife, that have the trophy house, that have the trophy car, that have the trophy success.
Mm-hmm.
And their desire is to always stay on top. It's always to be able to push and be at next level. And I go, okay, that shifted everything for me. And you go, but you didn't open YBL till later. No, because I started making sure that I was in the gym of life and that I was going to live the lifestyle where my family and I deserve the best of me and not what's left of me. Where I was going to make sure that my physical health, that my mindset, my guidance, if you will, and what was imperative to me, that I was growing at a magnanimous level, doing more public speaking, leading conferences, doing all these different things. And it was like, so fulfilling. And yet I'm reminded that when you're putting on an event, it can be stressful. And so they did a study, and you'll appreciate this, Mario. There's a study done in Spain, and they're like, why do Spaniards live so long? Like the average age, I mean, they're getting up there now where literally they're living longer than folks in Hong Kong and blue zones and even in Japan, where I'm from originally. And so it's interesting when we start to look at this. It's like, oh, why is that? It's one reason. They're happy. Now they're like going, wait a second. No, I'm not kidding. This is the craziest part. They go, they drink, they smoke, they party, and they're going, and they're happy. And that happiness quotient is what's leaning towards unbelievable levels of longevity in life. And so to your point, the tipping point is when I said no more, never again. I am not going to tolerate this stressful lifestyle. And when I find myself, because listen, by show of hands out there, and you're looking in the mirror right now, who doesn't have stress? And I'm like, okay, I don't think anyone's hands are up. Very few people. And if you don't have stress, bless you. That is beautiful. The human condition is, though, we only grow through stress. We grow through the challenges that we actually live through. The difference is that your life is in direct proportion to the amount of uncertainty and stress that you can comfortably live with. So there's a difference in threshold. If I work my muscle to the point where it's like painful and ouch and every rep hurts, I go, that's not growth. That's breakdown. But if I do repetitions in a very formatted way, I will get growth and progression. And I don't have to use heavy weight to do that, by the way. I just need to
Yeah.
use some resistance. I go, aha, okay, I'm liking this now. Because there's a difference between resistance and stress. And they go, well, what's the
Yeah.
difference? I said, resistance is that I get tos, not the I have tos.
Mm.
And most people are living in I have to do this. I have to do this. This is who I am. This is my
Mm-hmm.
dad. Whoa. No, you never have to do anything except breathe. You have 5 essential needs: air, water, food, shelter, and love and connection. As long as you're meeting those needs, you will thrive in life.
Mm.
The rest of it's are wants.
Yeah.
So for
Yeah.
me, that was a remarkable turning point,
Mm.
that clear
Mm.
distinction.
Yeah. I love that. That's and to narrow down on what you're saying in terms of the example you gave with people in Spain where they're just so happy. I fully agree with that. And I see that there is this obsession and this extremely heated debate on happening around the world around health.
Mm,
Uh, Keto, carnivore, vegan, paleo, you name it. And
hmm
I have been I've been living on a plant-based diet for almost 8 years.
Okay.
And in the beginning, when I started out, I admittedly one of more of a militant vegan kind of pathway. Everybody has to be vegan. You should never,
I
right? And
I was there
and then
too.
so you understand. And then as I grew, as my wisdom expanded, I understood that I'm not, who am I to say that this is the way for every human being? I cannot say that
Mm,
I don't know that. And now where I'm at, I feel like what you put in your body is important for sure,
Hmm.
plays an important role, but not to the degree that we talk about it. I firmly believe, and I'm with that, with what you're saying, and also with what Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about all the time. Is like
Hmm.
the most important element in your life is energy. Nothing is
100%.
more important than that. And if you're
100%.
thriving internally with happiness, whether you are a cashier checking apples, or whether you are the CEO of Apple itself, it doesn't matter. It's the energy that you're cultivating within you that creates longevity, that creates resilience. And I love that you're bringing that forward because I think it's so important. So maybe if you could tie that also into the F you talk about, fitness. I'm curious
Yes.
to hear your perspective.
Oh, absolutely. So fitness oftentimes is referred to as your level of strength, your
Mm.
agility, your, if you want to call it, sustainability. Um, if you can run a marathon where you can actually sustain energy over long periods of time. I said, no, absolutely not. Fitness is literally about body, mind, and spirit. There's mental
Wow.
fitness, there's physical fitness, and spiritual fitness. And many people are ailing in these different modalities. And it's one of the reasons why we said we have four F's. You know, it's funny. Someone was like, "Oh, you like the F word?" And I go, "I love the F words. I love fun and fantasy and fitness and family and faith." And they're like, "Going, yeah, but that's not what I was talking about." I was like, "Well, you can use whatever word you want." I said, "We're meaning makers." So the F word to me is all of these other things. And but yet most people are looking for impact. Most people are looking to, if I use that one word, it's going to be impactful to people. I go, no, said pick words that have meaning to you. And to your point, so when we talk about fitness, I would say this: without having the right heart set, you can't set the right mindset. So your heart set is literally how you feel most often. It's the core justifications as to how you need to feel most often. Most people's actions, Mario, are driven by the fact that they have a deep desire to feel a certain way. If that's valued, successful, loved, connected, caring, intelligent, uh, grateful, whatever the case might be. And I go, that's awesome. There's all these emotions that feed that narrative. And your body is like a energetic receptor dish. You put out energy and you bring energy back in, and it comes in the form of neuroreceptors in your body. So Joe Dispenza talks about this. Gary Brecka talks about this. One of the members in YBL, Dave Asprey, he is a biohacker,
Mm.
brilliant biohacker. He's a member of YBL, and it's remarkable because we talk about this. We go, oh, your endocrine intelligence, and it's like, wait, what? It's like, well, if you
Mhm.
look at in your cellular buildup, mitochondria are actually what are responsible for creating energy within your body. And at dormant level, mitochondria spin at about 8,000 to 10,000 RPM. When they're under load, they can spin up to 40,000 RPM. And you're going, these are in your cells. Well, what supports that? And I said, well, exosomes and different types of energy levels that actually do what? They actually reduce stress. They actually increase cellular engagement. They increase, like having essential fatty acids in your diet is something that's so important. And
Mm.
so, why is this imperative for us? Well, when your heart set and your mindset match, you actually go into what we call sinus rhythm. So your EKG and your EEG actually will go into synchronous rhythm. Well, they noticed
Coherence,
that
right?
pardon me,
Is that coherence what you're
it
referring
is
to?
coherence. It is. So you're
Yeah.
actually in a state of equilibrium. See,
Right.
there's no such thing as balance in life. What we're all searching for is synergy and harmony. So if you think of like the yin and yang symbol, it's interesting because it's not static, it's actually dynamic, it's in
Mm.
motion.
Mm.
And it's it's actually polarized by the opposite polarity because there's the same color. So if it's black and white, there's a black pearl in this one, there's a white one in this, but the field is black and this one is white. And you're like,
Right.
going, holy smokes, how could that be? I said, because it's an evolution. And it's not,
Mm.
it's seeking symbiosis. It's not seeking like on a teeter totter where there's balance, because this is a static life. If you're in direct balance, There's no movement, and you can't measure what's not moving. That's also called comfort level. And they go, okay, but isn't this being hypocritical then? If you're living in comfort, is that not stress free? And I go, actually, no. It's actually more stressful because here's what happens. You're living on the habit trail of life. You have no aspirations. You're not growing. And if you're not growing, you're dying.
Dying.
That's the universal rule of life. And I go, oh my goodness gracious. I know a lot of people that are living a very slow death.
Yeah.
And this is where being intentional, this is where motive and intention start to coincide. Because now I can, and it's all in the languaging. I set my mindset, but my mindset needs to be based on a metric, your heart set. Well, when your heart set and your mindset are in synchronous rhythm now, it actually allows for the synchronicity in your body. You actually, if you believe in like Tony Robbins' 6 human needs, I give credit to Source, that your life is a direct proportional amount of certainty. Because if you have certainty in your life, especially for people who are providers, both male and masculine and feminine energy, well, that certainty gives you the strength to know that you can achieve anything. You have that
Right.
faith, you have that drive. There also needs to be a level of variety that's involved with this. Because if there's no variety, then you get bored. This happens in relationships. That's why so many marriages end in divorce after a period of time. There's a level of significance, which in the significance gets a bad rap. But people are like, "What? Okay, do I need to feel important?" I go, "I don't know of anyone who doesn't need to feel important." They go, "Oh, that's ego talking." I go, "No, that's self-respect talking." Because if you don't
Mm-hmm.
love you first, you don't put the oxygen mask on you first, it's very hard to put it on someone else. And then the last three are very simple. It's love and connection, growth and contribution. The last two being spiritual, the growth and contribution. But love and connection, and when you go back to the 5 needs that I talked about, the essential needs of air, water, food, shelter, love and connection, the only one that crosses over into both modalities is love and connection.
Yeah.
We are built to be a community. We are built to be amongst other people that we can resonate with.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're a giver, and I'll stop with this because gosh, I could go on all day. I love this topic. Um, Become a gracious receiver. This is probably one of the biggest lessons when I was going through what I went through in '09. I was like, I have to provide, I have to provide, I have to provide, I have to give, I have to have energy, I have to heal, I have to grow. And then I realized something. I wasn't letting everyone else love on me. I was being very selfish. And they're like, wait, what do you mean? If you're giving all the time, if you're serving all the time, I wasn't giving the gift of them feeling the gift of giving because I
Yeah.
was not a gracious receiver. And I had to learn to become one. And when I
Yeah.
did, my life was enhanced and so was theirs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That is so true. That's especially the last notion of love is a two-way street.
Yes,
And comes back to what you said. I find with the yin and yang, which is about alignment. And when it comes to giving and serving and providing, people like you and I are. This is part of our nature. And just like you, I also had to really look at, am I allowing people to serve me? And what helped me make a shift is by playing into the notion that allowing them to serve me is me serving them as well, because I'm empowering them by giving them the opportunity to serve me. And I was like, when I looked at it, that was like, oh, that feels really good. So not only am I receiving, I'm also empowering them through the receiving that they're providing for me. And that was a real game changer. I also love what you said about heart set and mindset. I'm fully there with you. And I'm curious, what are some of the habits on like a daily to maybe weekly, monthly basis that you would recommend people to find to create that alignment between heart set and mindset?
that's a great question. So there's actually a very simple process that takes 2.5 minutes a day. That's it, 2.5 minutes a day. That's because I started realizing a few things, and that was most people are not intentional with how they need to feel. They have a feeling, i.e., they get triggered, and then they have an emotional response, and then they try to justify it in their head. So there's this process for sorting feelings. And I was like, okay, what if we flip the script? What if we set the intention and we said, I'm going to ask myself in the morning when I get up and my feet hit the floor and I have my few moments of gratitude. Some people call it prayer, some people may call it meditation. And I sit and ask myself, how do I need to feel most often today? And I just ask myself that question, not in my head, just get in that heart space, take a couple nice deep breaths. As soon as you wake up in the morning, and just say, how do I need to feel most often today? Notice the languaging though, Mario. Not how do I want to feel most often today? How do I need to feel most often today? Because the mind is a beautiful construct. But when I ask what do I want, I'm going to get a cognitive response. When I ask what I need, you're going to get a visceral, heartfelt response. It's actually going to come. And this is what's really cool. They actually did a study of the heart. And the heart actually has 40 to 60,000 specialized neurite cells that are in the heart that actually have the same intelligence quotient as the brain. And
Crazy,
so
right?
it's remarkable. And so they're like, wait, what? They're like, this isn't made of stuff? No, that's why they go, my heart hurts. Yes, it does. And it's not just a physical pain, it's the manifestation of those neurites that are actually responding to different chemical responders and triggers. So when you ask that question, and this is where people can actually cultivate. So 1 minute, you're going to slow down, close your eyes. They go, but I just woke up. Understood. So you're actually coming out of alpha brainwave, and you're going to go ahead and just relax and close your eyes and allow yourself, and just put your hands on your heart. As where focus goes, energy flows. And as you breathe in deep through your nose and out through your mouth, just go ahead and acknowledge your heart, feel your heartbeat. You can actually feel it through your fingertips or your palm. And as you feel that, just breathe into that heart space for a moment and thank your heart. You didn't ask for it. It was gifted to you at the moment of conception. And it's what moves you and drives you every single day. It beats over 100,000 times a day and asks for nothing in return. Nothing. It has more emotional intelligence than even the brain does on any given day. As you're in that space, then you ask yourself, how do I need to feel most often? You can just whatever the top three that pop up. You're not going to make them wrong or right. You're just going to acknowledge them and say, thank you. Thank you, universe, for speaking to me. If that's God, Yahweh, Allah, Buddha, Vishnu, whatever your faith is, it might just be the universe. And as you ask, you're going to get some responses. It's like, oh, holy smokes, this is really cool. Write them down. Just write them down anywhere. Keep a journal, put it in your phone. You could set it as your screensaver if you want, as a reminder. But you just, write it down. Write it down and then take a photograph of it so you have it. And then during the course of the day, if you sporadically look at it, it's like going, oh yeah. And you'll find yourself smiling. You're like going, dang, I've had a challenging morning, but I chose to be happy. And you know
Hmm.
what? I'm not stressed out. I'm not feeling any kind of impingement. Here's the cool part. You can test for the efficacy of this at the end of the day. You go, how did I feel most often today? But there's two follow-up questions. Why did I feel that way? Man, I had that challenging situation this morning, but it seemed effortless. I was able to go ahead and rebound and to be resourceful. I came up with some great solutions. I learned so much from that engagement. Wow, that felt really good. Huh. I.e., what did it mean to me? That's what we're really asking.
Hmm.
Because again, if we're
Hmm.
meaning makers, it's never about the event, it's only the meaning we give to it. And at the
Yeah.
end of the day, then you ask yourself, how do I need to feel tomorrow? Because before you go to bed, and you go through that entire cycle again of detoxification of the brain as we sleep at night, we go into deep REM. The beautiful part is that you're actually setting the intention for the next day. And then you can get up in the morning and go, because you write it down before you go to bed. Get up in the morning. How do I need to feel most often? And then you could go, I'm not comparing. I'm just going to honor it. See, here's the difference. When we compare, we're judging. You don't need to judge how you're feeling. You get to set the intention as to how you need to feel. And these become your standards. These become your rituals. I know people that repeat this when they're at the gym. I know that there's some people who, when they're rinsing off and they're, doing their cold shower before they get out of the shower, they will go ahead and set these three emotional intentions. And it's remarkable to see the level of happiness. I've literally heard people who have started this exercise, and they'll go into the office and people go, did you get a facelift? They're like, what? They go, you don't have this scowling look on your face. You don't, have the 64-ounce tumbler of coffee this morning. It's like, what's different about you? And they're like going, I don't know. I just feel great. They go, well, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. Because here's the
Mhm.
deal. And thank you, Mario, for this amazing engagement. Every energetic state has a charge to it, and you can actually measure the hertz, the millihertz in someone's body, predicated on what energetic state they're in. When you're happy and euphoric and in love, man, you're resonating at 50. When you're stressed, you drop down to 20. When you're miserable, you're 5 to 10. When you're happy, you're right at about 35 to 40. And they're like, why is this important? Because each one of these states has a energetic wavelength.
Mhm.
So when you are living in your true self and being your true authentic self, and so let's say that's at 35 or 40, you're going to actually attract other people who resonate at 35 and 40. When you're at 50, you're going to resonate with other people that are at 50. If you're a miserable person, though, you're going to start attracting other miserable people because like attracts like. So if you think for a moment that what we're talking about is woo woo, it's scientific.
Right. Yeah.
This shifts everything. And that's why we say it's body, mind, and spiritual fitness. What is your emotional fitness? What's your spiritual fitness? What are your beliefs? That I deserve a beautiful life? That it's my birthright? Or, oh, I'm just a victim of circumstance. All this bad stuff happens to me and only me. It never happens to anybody else. I go, well, is life happening for you or to you? You get to decide.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
It's all
Yeah.
interpretation.
It's very powerful, and I love how you're putting things into perspective. And I'm curious to know your thoughts about, you just brought up something that I'm sure you've heard before. I hear it. This whole is like sort of playing it down. It's like, yeah, this is like woo woo stuff. This is like for women, not for men. We make hard, tough decisions. And obviously you and I, we have a different perspective on that. And there's a study that I forgot who did it. It might have been the Heart Math Institute, where they
Mm.
showed that the heart is not an organ that just pumps blood. The heart actually has its own center of intelligence, and it's faster than the brain. What they did is they showed, so there was a person and there was a barrier between, and then the barrier would lift, and then they would measure how long it would take the mind and the brain to respond to the image. So sometimes they would be shown a flower, children laughing and playing, then like a war-torn image, or like something that sparks more of a stressful response. And
Hmm.
the most insane thing happened, which blew me away. The heart responded to the image before the eyes and the brain were even processed the image itself. So before the image was revealed. And the
Yep.
way that they explained it is because everything in life has a frequency, has a resonance. This pen has a frequency, and we can respond and align with those frequencies. And so the heart responded before the brain could even get there. Now, let's take that and apply it to the business world and to decision making. And I'm curious to
Hmm.
hear your perspective on that.
100%. So the emotional intelligence quotient of the heart is that it is responsible for what we call gut feeling. And
Yeah.
so the challenge becomes is that there's this internal turmoil where they go, "Oh, I'm a smart person. I have cognitive ability. I'm a genius level."
Mm.
And the challenge becomes is that I know a ton of geniuses that screw up all the freaking time, all the time. They're like what I'll call serial entrepreneurs. They're like, "Oh, just another deal. I'm a doer. I get stuff done." And I'm like, okay, it's like watching Kevin Hart. You go, hey, listen, man. It's like, okay, we get, and it's like going, okay, that's great. The challenge with it is that it doesn't mean it's right. And so there's this other side to this, which is what I'll call ethical engagement. And these are companies that actually look at the tenants, the culture creation within the organization, and they actually applaud and ask people to use their full body experience to be able to develop and create products, goods, and services. So I'll shift this because there's some people who have done some amazing work in this, and Simon Sinek is one of them. He's a
Mhm.
brilliant um, logistical, I'll say, psychiatrist. He doesn't even realize he is. He's a practical psychologist. And what he did is he said, there's this concept of the golden circle. And if you've heard this before, I'll make it real quick, Mario, because for those that may not have heard this. So Simon Sinek says, everyone in business can tell you what they do. So this is this outer ring, what they do. 100% of the people. The next circle in is how they do it. Well, here's where the interesting part is. About 50% can tell you how they do it. It's like, wait, only half? It's like, well,
It's
they're not
crazy.
involved in all the other businesses. So everyone can tell you what they do, what their responsibility is, but they can't tell you how they do it. They just say, well, this is the part I do. So in this car, I don't know how they put the dashboard in, but I put the tires on. So I can tell you what I do, but I can't tell you how they do all this other stuff. I'm not trained in that. And this is where it got really sticky. Okay? The inner circle is why they do it. Only 10% of the people in their organization can tell them why they do what they do.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, my motivation is to make a paycheck. The company's motivation is to increase profits, I'm assuming. And it's like, oh, wait, whoa, what? Like, this is crazy. So other companies have flipped it on its head. So, like, if you look at Apple or different organizations, and they go, well, they start with the why first, and everybody understands the culture of the why. Everybody, 100% of their people can tell you why they do what they do. 100% can tell you how they do it because they are cross-trained in different arenas, and 100% can tell you what they do. And they're like, oh,
Mhm.
whoa. So this creates a different narrative because if you look at it, it's inversely proportional to one another. And it's like, oh my gosh, this is how you create a brand. This is how you create stark raving fans. And they go, well, what does that result in? Consistency. I can go to any Apple store anywhere in the world and get the same level of service. They have the exact same products. They're laid out the exact same way. It's like, so this goes back to the six human needs. How much certainty do you have that you're going to get served in a way that you understand and is clear? How much variety? There's all these options and choices. You can go to the Genius Bar, they can help you fix stuff. How much significance? Well, they make you feel important. What's your name? We'll put you in the queue. We're going to call, hey, Mr. Hogan, it's your time. We'd love to see you. John's over here to help you. It's like, holy smokes, how much connection? Hey, I'm
Mm.
John. I'm here to help serve you. You're like, oh, wait, what the freak is going on? So to your point, it changes the narrative around the entire experience. And this is how businesses can cultivate and grow. It's like, how are we getting this magnanimous growth with, our YBL members? It's actually really simple. We understand the human condition and we clearly identify what it is that people need. Most people are chasing and trying to fulfill wants. So, Mario, do you remember when you were a little kid and an advertisement or, an advertisement, as they say in some countries, would come on the telly and you'd be looking at this and watching and going, oh, okay, this is cool. I want one of those, mom and dad. Oh my gosh, I want the latest bike, the G.I.
Of
Joe,
course.
the Atari, the gaming system, whatever the case might be. I'm kind of dating myself because I said Atari. And so the
I was
Xbox,
like, I was like, wait, I didn't never ask my parents for an Atari.
I had a feeling. I was like, he's too young. And so here's what's interesting about that, though, is that your wants change as the environment changes.
Yeah.
Your needs are consistent: air, water, food, shelter, love, and connection. And and here's where it gets interesting. Our need for variety, because when our certainty is being met at a high level, our wants change. Well, our wants change because now we want to advance the level of experience.
Hmm.
I need food, but I want it to be in Paris at the Eiffel Tower at an amazing restaurant. I need adventure. It's like, okay, great. What is that? That's jumping off a bridge in New Zealand, bungee jumping. It's like these things change the narrative. as to the level of experiences that we get to embody.
Right.
And so, to your point, in business, the fastest way to close that gap is to acknowledge, number one, what are the values and the culture of your community. And this is where some companies are failing miserably. The ones that grow the fastest are the ones that actually have the strongest tenets. They actually have the highest standards. It doesn't mean that they're militant. It just means that they have a system of support to help meet people where they're at and to see if they have an aptitude to elevate. Now, is that the most important thing? No. Actually, what is the most important thing is people's willingness to be able to adopt different. And 2 seconds on an explanation for that, and it's real simple. When people start to go, I'm looking for better, I'm looking for different, I go, ooh, I'm sorry. Like, well, what do you mean? I'm raising standards. Well, that means that your standard that you have now isn't good enough. So you're going to discredit everything that you do now? I go, well, no, that's
Mhm.
not what I'm saying. I said, well, no, that's what you're doing because you're saying that we're not good enough, so that we have to raise the standard there. Well, isn't that the aspiration? I said, it shouldn't be. What if we're just looking for different? What if we're just looking for a different way? Because if it's always about stacking on, I go, the tallest building would never be the tallest building. You'd always be
Mm.
adding one more brick, one more, pillar, one more floor. I go, at some point in time, the sustainability of that starts to become very daunting. So what if we were just looking for a different way of having an engagement, a different way, a different level of happiness, a different level of fulfillment, a different level of growth? And they're like going, oh my gosh, why? Because that doesn't presuppose that what we're doing now is wrong.
Mm. Yeah.
So part of this is the psychology as to how we process information. We have this aspiration. And you just said, but Chuck, if you're not growing, you're dying. I said, yes. What if we look for a different way of growing? Now, what does that do? It's scintillating. It's enticing. It gives me variety. It gives me some significance because now I'm in that growth cycle and I'm exercising resourcefulness. How much security is in it? I'm secure in the fact that I know who I am right now and I'm part of a community that we're going to cultivate and grow together. There's love and connection in that as well. There's also some growth and contribution. You're like going, hey, I'm going to contribute whatever insights I have, distinctions.
Mm.
Here's the coolest part, though. We don't judge one another. We co-elevate. And I go,
Yeah.
ooh, that feels a different way. And this is where the businesses that are growing the fastest are actually cultivating.
Hmm. It's just so exciting to hear because it confirms that the simple, basic things in life are actually what drives the most success.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the society that we're now with AI, with it, I find being a big blessing. Obviously, there are parts that we need to watch out for, but you're always coming back to the basics that everybody can do, that everybody can apply, that everybody can focus on. You don't need a degree, you don't need millions of dollars to invest in that. It's the fundamentals, and mastering the fundamentals will provide the ground for long-term sustainable success. One thing that I know that you're big on that we haven't spoken yet about in more detail are relationships. So
Uh-huh.
I'm sure you can give a whole lecture, a week long lecture about relationships. In the time that we still have, what would you say are some of the fundamental elements when it comes to cultivating thriving relationships as a business owner?
Oh, thank you. A brilliant question. Um, Fulfillment. It's when we're engaging in business relations, it's so important to have three things. One is rapport.
Mm.
Um, no one, Maya Angelou said this, and in fact, so did Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And the way he paraphrased it was, "No one cares what you have to say until they know how much you care."
Mm.
So if no one feels respected, if no one feels heard, if no one feels that you're being a respondent and that you're actually being present, then you're going to lose buy-in. Why? Because where that frequency is in the energy level. If you're there just to serve, you're like, thanks, Mario. Thanks for letting me come on your podcast today. This has been so amazing. But if I say, Mario, thank you for allowing me to be here with you today, you can feel there's just an energetic shift. And so one's much more congruent than the other. Second part, we need to clearly identify what the needs of the client are
Yeah.
and whether or not we can actually meet that need. Because there are companies who are chasing solutions to things and it's completely out of their wheelhouse. That would be me like going, hey, Mario, let's go ahead and do this entire, exchange together in Japanese. Are you ready? And you'll be like, wait, what? I don't speak Japanese. Oh, that's okay. I'll help you. Well, I don't even want to speak Japanese, Chuck. Like, it's like, oh, then, man, that's too bad. Watashi no nama wa Charles Hogan desu. You're like, oh, wait, what? And it's like, okay, I just said my name is Charles Hogan. And they're like, oh, man, it's going to be a long day. And you'll be there like this. Uh-huh. That sounds interesting. I have no clue what you said, but yes or no. I've got a 50-50 chance here. And so it changes, right? It changes the exchange because
Yeah.
that's very disingenuous. So us picking a level of communication and understanding this, clients communicate on a number of different levels. Now, if you're in the restaurant industry, you get to use all five. What do I mean by that? Visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, and gustatory. Because their experience is going to be smelling the food, tasting the food,
Mhm.
seeing the food, hearing the crunch, hearing it being made in the back, watching the flambe. It's like
I'm
it's a
getting hungry.
whole scintillate. Oh, dude, I know it's early over here. I'm like going, the coffee's not cutting it. And so on the other side of that, I go, okay, it's also setting an expectation.
Mm.
We're here to listen to you. We are grateful for this opportunity to have this exchange. Our intention is to be able to provide you with the highest level of service to meet your needs. So we have a few questions so that way we can make sure that we're not over promising and under delivering. If we set the level of expectation, and that's really what most people are doing in life, in a relationship, in engagements, we're setting levels of expectation. Yet most people exercise pretty poor communication skills.
Right.
And so to your point, I would say this, all businesses are P2P. If you're B2B, business to business, business consumer, all businesses are P2P. Every business I've ever seen is people to people. There's someone who's going to be consuming the information, the service, the knowledge, the product. If they're ingesting it, using it, seeing it, facilitating it, even if it's an app, I go, it's in the engagement and the value that that creates for someone. So have you ever purchased an app because the advertisement for it looked amazing? Oh, it can do all these things, and then you get it and you're like, this thing doesn't do jack. Like what the heck? And I've had friends who've done this. They go, dude, I want to get my money back. I go, well, you should. There's a trial period. And they go, yeah, but they make it so difficult. And I said, oh, so you didn't manage your own expectations for what a fruitful engagement looks like.
Mm.
You're going to get what you're willing to tolerate. Please, if no one takes anything away from this conversation but this today, you're going to get what you're willing to tolerate. If you tolerate mediocrity, that's what you're going to attract in your life. But that's not a thrive ideology, that's a survival ideology. And those have very different metrics in relation to what the outcomes are, what the aspirations are, and what you're inviting into your world. So again, you can do the self-test. If you're living in survival, where are you resonating as far as your frequency is concerned? But if you're living in thrive, which is opportunity, because there's a saying, progress equals happiness. A millimeter or a mile, progress equals happiness. Your privilege is to celebrate any movement that you're making. Even
Yeah.
if you're backsliding a millimeter, they go, ooh, why? Said, as long as there's opportunity attached, because what feeds progress is possibilities. And as long as you know that there's possibilities available in your universe, in body, mind, and spirit, personally and professionally, in all aspects of your life, then you're growing and you get to celebrate that, not criticize
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's beautiful. That's so much value packed into this conversation that we're having. I'm really, really enjoying it, Chuck. And for a man of your level, who's traveled so much, who's worked with Tony Robbins, I have one more question, which I'm really curious how you're going to answer it. If you could spend 1 hour of your time with any human being, dead or alive, who
Mhm.
would it be and why?
At this time in the world, I would say, and this is going to sound maybe very selfish. Um, when I was young, my Irish grandfather passed away when I was 4.5 years old, and I'm named
Mm,
after him. And by all accounts, from everyone I've ever spoken to, my father, my uncles, my cousins, they said he was such a profound human being in relation to how he saw the world in such a simple way. I would love to have an hour with him to get his philosophies on life, in love, and what the meaning of happiness meant to him. And I can't explain it other than the fact that I have this draw to that lineage. And I'm very blessed. My Japanese heritage, my Irish heritage, they're both steeped in a lot of tradition. And I'm surprised and humbled by how many things my Japanese grandfather and my Irish grandfather, at a very young age, I still remember some of the conversations, even at 4.5 years old, that we had. And it was relived through my parents, my mom and my dad, who we are still in my life and are amazing, influences in my world. But I would have to say that I'm not one for grandiose, grandstanding. I wouldn't need it to be a huge political figure or someone, that's famous. To me, my grandfather is famous in my mind and
mm,
in my heart. And that
yeah,
would mean more to me than anything.
I love that response. And beyond the shadow of a doubt, your grandfather, wherever he is right now, he is beaming with joy and pride of the man that you have become. And I'm sure there's many more people that are listening to this podcast that would love to get in touch with you and get to know more about you. So, Chuck, please tell us, how can people get in touch with you and connect deeper?
No, thank you. I would just ask that you come check us out at yblnow.com. It's literally yblnow.com. Um, I believe that our existence is more than just about self. And I'm blessed to be part of a community that I'm a co-founder of. And the legacy is that I never want a community of any sort being dependent on one person. If
Mm,
one person passes on or moves on or leaves, the community should be about how you continue to cultivate and create value for everyone. And YBL is exactly that type of community. It's a love interest. It's my passion outside of my family. And it's so rewarding, Mario, just to see people. I mean, we go on these events. I could just tell you, I mean, Rwanda and having experience with a 600-pound silverback gorilla named Marambo, who literally moved me
wow.
out of the way in a gentle way. Um, Being on the beaches of Mykonos and going to the island of Delios and seeing civilizations from 30,000 years ago, to going to the Dominican Republic and raising money for young women who have been and children who have been trafficked and helping
Mm.
create an environment so they can have their freedom. What is your impact going to be in this world? And what's the example that you'll set for your children and other people? I feel like I'm a simple guy that's living his life and being his best so I can do my best. So I will end with this. You can be doing your best, but never being your best. And I know a lot of people who are striving to do their best. When you're being your best, you will always do your best. So take the shortcut and just be the best you can be today. And anything that you adventure into will cultivate itself into you doing your best, whatever that is in the moment with the resource that you have access to right now. Don't chastise it, don't judge it, just be it and live it. And that way you reduce stress and you're living your best life.
Aho. Thank you, my friend. You've inspired me. And without a doubt, you have inspired a lot of our listeners today. With that, we are complete. I will be sure to add all of Chuck's details in the show notes. Please do yourself a favor, reach out. I'm going to treat myself to some YBO experiences in the future for sure, because it sounds absolutely amazing. Chuck, thank you so much for being an amazing guest on the Zenpreneur podcast. And thank you, my dear listener, for making all of this possible. And I will see you on the next episode.